Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Talk Scottish Football. A bit of a throwback here, sitting on the StreamYard setup, live streaming. It's me and David joining you. We're joining you this afternoon for what is turned out to be a pretty big day for the Scottish national team for so many different reasons. We were expected to sit down here and just give a general reaction to the squad. But amongst that, we've been given news of contract extensions, coach departures, coach appointments. David, it's been a pretty frantic day. How are you doing?
Ian Maxwell's a bit of a terrorist. He's obviously not checking about the TSF recording schedule because, obviously the boys have done a podcast this morning that doesn't cover this stuff. So we're putting this live out to kind of... Jai, I'm just out of bed, mate. That's why I look rough as fuck. Apologies. My sleep pattern is humped. Anyone who's seen my Twitter will know that. I don't even know what to say. It's mental the amount of news that's come out. Obviously, the news about Austin McPhee broke about earlier this morning. So that kind of wasn't a surprise, but... we knew the squad was coming, which I don't really know where to start. Do we start with the squad? Do we start with?
Well, I've got a handy graphic up on screen. So before we get diving into any opinion, because that's what we're here to do, we're here to give our opinion, and before we discuss the contract and the coaches and everything else, let's have a quick run through of all the players involved in the Scotland squad. Now I need to get rid of. I've put it in the wrong bit, haven't I? Because there we go. Hey, that's us. There's the Scotland squad there up on screen for the matches against Denmark, Moldova, and Austria in the World Cup qualifiers. It consists of Xander Clarke, Craig Gordon, Liam Kelly, Liam Cooper, Declan Gallagher, Grant Hanley, Jack Hendry, Scott McKenna, Stephen O'Donnell, Nathan Patterson, Andy Robertson, Greg Taylor, and Kieran Tierney. Stuart Armstrong, Lewis Ferguson, Billy Gilmore, John McGinn, Callum McGregor, Kenny McLean, David Turnbull, and then the forwards, Che Adams, Ryan Christie, Lyndon Dykes, James Forrest, Ryan Fraser, and Kevin Nisbet. That is your Scotland squad. A couple of noticeable omissions in the form of Scott McTominay and John Fleck. They're not there from the Euro squad. But what are you thinking about that team on first reaction, David?
First reaction, very positive. I think there's lots to be excited about in there. It's good to see. I think a lot of it is down to the fact, Ryan Christie's in great form again. Forrest's back playing. So ultimately, those two are at the Euros, but we're now looking at those two names and going, wow, they're playing well, that's good. Nisbet been in, Adams been in, good to see. Obviously, McTominay, a bit of a disappointment. But again, the midfield options are great. Gilmore's obviously there. Callum McGregor, another one who, before the Euros, we were looking at Callum McGregor in the squad and going, oh, right, McGregor's there. Whereas now we're like, yes, McGregor's there. He's playing well. Turnbull there as well, who's finally come into a bit of form again. So there's lots to be positive about. I think the real question marks are the defensive selections. And there's two, before we even come on to the one that everyone wants to talk about, there's two that I think are really hard done by. Firstly, Stephen Welsh, who we all know I'm not a massive fan of and haven't been on that hype train, but I think he's been, he came into the Celtic team last season and has progressively got better. And I think when you look at Declan Gallagher being in there and McKenna being in there, I think Welsh could be in with a shout. I also think John Souttar was in with a big shout, and I think he's really unlucky to miss out because obviously Hearts are playing with a back three, which is what Clarke likes to do. He started the season really, really well, and he's not in either. So those two, I think, should be hard done by, in my opinion.
Well, as a squad that's certainly gathered a mixed opinion so far on social media. A lot of people not happy with a couple of noticeable omissions, a couple that you've already touched on. I also didn't bring up the fact that David Marshall's away. He's no longer, it looks as though he's out of the Scotland squad, as expected with his position in the Derby County squad at the moment. But there's one dominating the comments section, and we'll come on to it. We can't ignore it, but thank you to the £2 donation from Connor. It's very much appreciated. You've touched on Stephen Welsh, another Celtic player who hasn't been called up to the squad, if a lot of people thinking he should be, is Anthony Ralston. So there's two Celtic players there that have been given an omission. You've already had a sort of little bit of a rant, and I'll let you go on to that now. What's your thoughts? Because the comment section is dominating it right now, David. What's your thoughts on Tony Ralston not being involved in the squad? For me, personally, I'm not surprised. I didn't expect Anthony Ralston to be involved in this Scotland squad. Would I have liked to have seen Ralston in the squad? Yes, I would have. I think on current form, he's been playing pretty well, but I think I had no expectation whatsoever for Steve Clarke to make that pick.
No, he was never going to do it. The only way I think he would have done it would be if O'Donnell was injured. I mean, Ralston's he's played well, but we are forgetting that a month ago, every single Celtic fan wanted him nowhere near their team ever again. That was just a month ago. He's done well since then. But again, he's playing in a very specific style and system for a team that dominates the ball, creates chance after chance. He doesn't have to go through large periods of defending in games. So it's a very unique setup he's playing in. And also, if you did, I don't know, Calvin Ramsey at Aberdeen, I think has been as good, if not better, than Ralston so far this season, personally. Now,
well, big claim.
That goes, well, yeah, but I mean, you've got to remember, Ramsey was playing well back when you wanted Ralston never to be seen again. So, I don't understand why there's such a claim for one and not the other. It doesn't surprise me at all. I just don't think it's as big an issue. Like, even if Ralston was in, right, which, yes, on current form, deserves to be in ahead of Stephen O'Donnell, in my opinion. Current form, he's playing better than O'Donnell is. Is he that much better than Stephen O'Donnell? Like, when it's like, it's a massive mistake. Is he that much better? And here's the other thing. Juranovic is in the door now. In a month's time, will Anthony Ralston playing for Celtic? Almost definitely not. Let's be honest here. So, your forward planning you're doing. I mean, but by the time the actual internationals come around, it'll be interesting to see if he chucks Juranovic straight in for the big game this weekend. So, there is a lot of. Whereas I think with the Patterson thing, we all know Patterson's going to be playing for Scotland in the future. I don't think that's really in any doubt. So, I don't know. It's a tough one. McTominay's injury, though, that kind of, I haven't been paying attention. Did that just kind of come out of the blue, or has he been injured for a while?
Yeah, he was on the bench at the weekend against Southampton, and I think that he came. I can't remember if he did. I remember seeing him warming up, but I can't remember if he came on or not. I think that it's just a recent development. It's just a precautionary sort of thing. So he's not going to be in the squad. That is a big blow because we know how good Scott McTominay is and how important he is for Steve Clarke, both in the two areas that he can play in as a centre back and a central midfielder. So it will be a big miss having Scott McTominay at the squad. But a good point that was raised there, we're talking about right backs. I think there's plenty of people who could be in for a shout over Stephen O'Donnell, Tony Ralston being one of them. We've already got Patterson in there. You're talking about Sean Rooney, you're talking about Ramsey, as you've said, and then Welsh missing out too. It's not just the only hard done by player to miss out. I still think there's plenty of options.
Jason Kerr as well, I think, is another one that deserves a mention.
Yep. Plenty of defenders in the Scotland, that are Scottish that haven't made the squad here. But I mean, it's just Steve Clarke for you. I mean, I think I was expecting to be let down with a few people not being in the squad, to be quite honest with you, David.
Yeah, but I don't think, I've seen so many Steve Clarke squads before where you've gone, there's 4 or 5, like, oh my God, they should definitely be in. I don't think that's the case here. Like, listen, we're talking about all these defenders here. They can't all play. You're probably talking the ones we're talking about that have missed out, 1, maybe 2 that could realistically get in. So yeah, I don't think the squad's bad at all. I think that there's a lot to be positive about. I look, especially going forward in midfield and attack. Who's missed out that we think should be in there? I can't. No one comes to mind. Personally.
Yeah, I think as I've said, noticeable omissions out of the midfield. McTominay and Fleck seem to be the only two.
McTominay's injury, isn't it? And Fleck get him so far to fuck. So
yeah, exactly. So as I look around it going forward, I'm very happy. For the first time in a long time, I've been confident of the forwards that we have. I think we're looking for big performances from Lyndon Dykes and Che Adams, who didn't quite get firing at the Euros. But you look at how Nisbet started the season. You look at Fraser being fit again. You look at how Christie's been playing, and we know how good Christie is for Scotland already. You look around that attack, those forward names from Che Adams onwards, and I'm pretty confident in that, David, I must admit.
The midfield as well is brilliant. I mean, everyone knows I love Billy Gilmore. You build that team around him. Lewis Ferguson is so deserving of that call-up. For Aberdeen, he's been brilliant for years now. He's at an age now where he can really make an impression on the senior squad. Certainly, Lewis Ferguson ahead of John Fleck is a big step up, in my opinion. I think Ferguson offers you goals as well for midfield, which is something we kind of have been lacking a little bit. I just think there's loads to be positive about that. Loads to be positive about. And, it's I've seen Dykes take a bit of criticism, but again, I don't know what striker is kind of behind him that's chapping on the door, and also gives you something completely different. And also Forrest being back fit, and again, he scored goals for Scotland in the past. There's just loads to be excited about, I think, especially going forward.
Well, let's talk about, you've touched on Ferguson. Before we get on to talking about Stevie Clarke and the coaches and such, we're talking about changes from the Euros. This is the first sort of international break since the competition, and we're now looking forward into trying to qualify for the World Cup. And now Steve Clarke's been given a contract for Euro 2024. But there are new names on the side. Liam Kelly has been brought in before. This isn't his first rodeo as part of a squad, but they've got Liam Kelly, they've got Xander Clarke, and they've got Lewis Ferguson, 3 Scottish Premiership inclusions in the squad there. There's a lot of conversation that was going on in Sky Sports there, David, about who now is the number 1. they suspect it'll be Craig Gordon. I think a lot of people will suspect it'll be Craig Gordon with his experience, but I'm kind of buzzing at the thought of Xander Clarke maybe standing into that role. I think I'd like to see him start. Look, Craig Gordon, fantastic keeper. We all know that. He's one of the best at shot stopping when he's on it. When he's on it, well, hopefully not when he's on it, when he's at it. But I like the thought of Clarke coming in. Gordon, his days are numbered, surely, as a keeper. I don't know how many more tournaments he could potentially be involved in. I don't know if he'll make Qatar. I would like to see Clarke get the confidence and the shout to maybe be the first choice. He's done a brilliant job in the league. He's won a cup double, and he's been performing well on a European stage as well now. So I think Xander Clarke, for me, should be looked at as perhaps the number one here as a new inclusion alongside Ferguson and, to an extent, Kelly.
It's going to be Craig Gordon, isn't it? It just is.
It's going to be Gordon. It's probably going to be Gordon, but I would like it to be Clarke. I would really like it to be Clarke.
I'm a bit... Is John McLaughlin injured? What's happened there? Why is he not in the squad? I don't understand that.
Not got a clue, to be honest. Not got a clue. I've not kept up.
So I just don't understand why he was in the squads last season and now he's not, considering he will play more games this season than he did last, probably. I find that a bit strange. I'm happy to see Clarke and Liam Kelly in there. I think Liam Kelly is kind of the one that is just with his age. I think going forward, you kind of hope he's going to be the next sort of standout that's going to lock that position down. We're not going to have a situation now where you're going to have three top goalies at the same sort of point in their career fighting it out. We're not going to have that. We've been lucky over the last sort of 10, 15 years. So someone has to make it their own. Xander Clarke, yeah, he's done really well. Is he an international quality goalkeeper? I'm not sure.
I think he can challenge himself to do it, though. I think there's a couple of games there where we could give him the shout. And as I said, he's done well enough in Europe so far in the games that he's played. I know it's a very limited amount of competition, and it's not like he's getting months of time to showcase himself, but I think that he's more than good enough, to be honest. I've always been a fan of Xander Clarke. I've always thought he's a great keeper, and I don't think there's any harm in giving him a shout over the likes of Gordon, to be honest.
We've got the two biggest games of the group coming up, though. We've got Denmark and Austria away. I mean, to chuck somebody in who's never played for the country before in those two games is massive. The one thing Craig Gordon has got
I do think it'll be Gordon
experience. Yeah, so do I. And listen, for those two games, I probably would go with Gordon myself personally. I just think that if you chuck in Xander Clarke in those two games, right, and he chucks one in, his international career is done before it's even started. You've kind of got to protect players like that. I think, it's one of those, and I find it a lot with the national team.
Do you think that Steve Clarke thinks like that, though? After a couple of howlers that Marshall had, do you think he didn't drop Marshall? Do you think he would drop the likes of Xander Clarke if he was to do it?
Marshall had a lot more credit in the bank with the international team than Xander Clarke's got, though. Marshall has been our number one for years, which everyone seems to forget. It's one of those that it happens a lot with the national team. You have these discussions that are kind of a bit pointless because you can waste energy and time debating these things when it's so obvious what's going to happen. I don't think it's a major issue. It's not like you've got one goalie there who I think is so much better than the rest. I think whichever one of them plays, I don't think we're really missing much. I'm fine with it being Gordon, to be honest.
We've got a lot of Stevie Welsh chat happening just now in the comments, but we'll save that for now. I
think he's hard done by.
Overall, I think it's a squad that I'm decently happy with. I would have liked to have seen maybe another couple of guys in and around there. But look, listen, you can only work with what you've got, and there's a lot of work to do, because let's move on to the big news about coaches and managers and everything else. Steve Clarke has been given a contract extension to lead Scotland through their bid to make Euro 2024 in Germany. It was an announcement that I think a lot of people, David, are a bit apprehensive towards. There was, if you remember rightly, I wasn't here for it, but you and Div made a video and it was talking about whether or not Steve Clarke his days were maybe looking a little bit numbered as Scotland boss, but the FA have installed faith in him. They've given him an extension of contract, and he's here to stay for now, David.
I think it's an absolutely mental decision. I do not understand it at all. I think it's ridiculous. I don't get the logic at all. Right, let me something I brought up post Euros, and I got a lot of stick for it. Since we beat Serbia on penalties in a game we almost chucked through his bad decision making, we've played Slovakia. We got beat. We played Israel. We got beat. We drew at home with Austria. Big game. You've got to win if you want to qualify that group. We drew. We drew away to Israel. And we beat the Faroes. We drew, and then we had two friendlies, and then we had a pretty much disastrous European campaign, Euros campaign. So our form since we played Serbia has been dreadful, absolutely dreadful. We chucked the Nations League. We absolutely bottled that, and we might I think we've pretty much already chucked the World Cup qualifiers. So now you've given him an extent. I just don't think it was needed. He's not going to go anywhere. Give him if he makes an arse this World Cup qualifiers, I genuinely think he should step down. I don't think he should be manager anymore.
Like if you look at
he's taking us to the Euros, right? Chuck the Nations League and now chuck the World Cup qualifiers, and we're giving him the next European campaign. Now, how long can we stay in the cycle of, if you want to progress from getting to a major tournament, you've got to get to the next one. We had a really good opportunity looking at that World Cup qualifying group. I know Austria and Denmark are both decent teams, right? But if we want to qualify for major tournaments and you get those two in your group, you've got to go for it and fancy yourself. And I just think that the main thing for me is he's not going to go anywhere. So why does he need to give an extended contract?
Yeah, I think the point that I was thinking of is, look, you look at the 3 games we've got here: Denmark, Austria, and Moldova. There's a very realistic possibility you walk away with less than 3 points from those 9 possible points. Then what situation do we find ourselves in with Steve Clarke? How do we look at it? How do we assess the situation? Because we've fully chucked them at that point. So what happens next? Does Steve Clarke have to step down after being given a contract? Did the Scotland board go back and what happens? And there's a lot of people who are riding off the kind of the wave of positivity from making a major tournament. I'll play devil's advocate here for a moment, David, and let you speak. I'm going to play devil's advocate in the sense there'll be a lot of people who will be saying, look, he got us to our first major tournament in 20 years. We should be grateful for that, and things aren't that bad. Let's just be. How would you react to the people who would say that?
Shite. Pull up Brandon's comment there, because it's a great comment. The squad of players Scotland have just now is fantastic. It's the most talented I've seen in a long, long time. And we play defensive football. You saw it against England when we tried to play a bit of football. Billy Gilmour and Cal McGregor dominated the ball for large parts of the game, but that's not how we set up and play. If we get in a situation where we are beaten in these 2 games against Austria and Denmark, you absolutely have to pick squad. It's got the likes of Stephen Welsh, Nathan Patterson, Billy Gilmour, Ferguson Turnbull. You have to start playing them. You need to move forward. You need to plan for the future. I don't Steve Clarke to manage these young players well enough, to be honest. And my camera's away, isn't it?
Yeah, you're back now. You're back now. Don't worry. Oh, there's a camera away altogether. Yeah, but I can see where you're coming from. A lack of trust in perhaps coaching these young guys is a problem for Scotland. It's a big problem because it's setting up the next sort of 10 years of our national team. It's not just about World Cup, but it's not just about Euros. It's not about the next 6 months. It's about the future of our team, because there's a lot of guys here, David, that are going to be Nathan Patterson, Billy Gilmour, Kevin Nisbet. These 3 names in particular are guys that are probably going to be in the Scotland squad for the next 10 years. And how long can we stunt their development as a Scotland player? Oh, there's David away completely. I thought I heard him. I thought he was still there. I'll carry on from here. There,
no, I'm away, but I'm back. I'm back. I didn't need a question, but I'm standing by what I said. It's a dreadful decision.
That's fine. On that note as well, as David struggles with the technology within the flat, and then he's gone altogether. I'll let him join back in a moment and see if it works. But on that note as well, Scotland did announce that there will be a change in the coaching setup at Scotland. There has been departures and there has been announcements on new members of staff within the Scotland setup. Stevie Woods of Celtic has left his role in the goalkeeping coach role and went back to just do Celtic full time. And we've also seen the departure of Stephen Reid of Nottingham Forest, who was of course part of the Euro setup as well. There will now be the additions of Chris Wood and Austin McPhee into the Scotland setup.
Francis Reid, that man's name is Stevie Reid, all right? He's away, isn't he? Stevie Reid away. He's away. And look, the one thing that we were ranting about for ages. Austin McPhee gives me the fear.
It gives me the fear as well. But we were ranting for ages about Stevie Reid and Stevie Woods and John Carver on the podcast, and now Stevie Reid is gone. Are you happy with the changing coaches now? Are you confused by it? What are you thinking? If he's there. Yeah, I love it. David is actually here on my screen. I don't think he realises. But yeah, Austin McPhee, Nanny McPhee, he's here from the Aston Villa set piece coaching role. He is part of the setup now. So there we go, and Chris Wood in as well. So there's the changes for Scotland. I'm just trying to make sure David's all right. And there he is.
Job's fucked.
Job's fucked. I'm still talking away here.
Wi-Fi's away. I can't get fuck all the work.
Oh Christ! I'll don't worry. I'll wrap up. But yeah. So thoughts everybody in the chat on the coaching changes as we get to the sort of 20-minute mark of this show. I mean, I don't know too much about Chris Wood. I know obviously Austin McPhee was at Hearts for a long, long time. He ended up getting the interim job there before I believe Daniel Stendel was given the job at Hearts. So yeah, we're getting, I guess, experience with the guys in. I hope there's not too much of a process where things are confusing and things are changing too much for both Stevie Clarke and the team. At the end of the day, I think that he managed to make the kind of guys that he worked with last time very much close, tight-fitted group. I think he could do the same once more with these guys. But, you know, it's a new look, it's a new era, and hopefully we go forward and qualify for the World Cup. That's the only thing that I think we can ask for now, is getting to the World Cup. But as David's already said, we've sort of already chucked that, which is slightly annoying. So we'll wait and see what happens. Anyway, that'll do us. That'll be it from TSF today. There will be a podcast out later on as David's Wi-Fi cuts off and dies. If you have enjoyed the live stream, if you've enjoyed the news and you've enjoyed our reaction, please make sure to hit like and subscribe as we surpass the 5K mark. And also make sure to follow us on Twitter at TSF Podcast 1. It's been a pleasure. Thanks on behalf of David as well. And yeah, I'll see you next time.